Last week I shared with you a piece by the Norwegian composer Alf Huderum. Today I'm going to share with you another piece that this composer created while living in Paris in the year 1911. I told you a little bit about how this stay in Paris was so consequential for Alf Huderum's career. It was at this point that he discovered the music of Claude Debussy, and his own musical style was never the same after that. His music took on the traits of musical impressionism, and for the next 18 years he composed music for voice and piano and for orchestra that exhibited the traits of musical impressionism. But then, in the year 1929, he returned to Paris, this time deciding to take a quick break from composing to study painting, something he had always been interested in. This second trip to Paris 18 years later proved to be yet another pivotal point in Alf Huderum's career, as after this trip he would never really compose again, and instead he focused on the visual arts for the rest of his artistic career. Alf Huderum's life is filled with world travels and adventure. He met an American woman and married her, and eventually settled in Honolulu, in Hawaii, and he lived out the rest of his life in Hawaii. He briefly served as the director of the Honolulu Symphony. He taught piano lessons at a private school on Oahu, but he really focused on silk painting for the rest of his life, and painting in styles that were influenced by the art and culture of Asia. Now that you've heard a little bit about the life of Alf Huderum, let's talk about the music that I'll share with you today. This piece, Chanson, alternates between two musical ideas. The first theme or melody that you'll hear sounds like this. This melody has an almost folk-like quality about it. It could really be a folk song. The secondary theme contrasts with that melody. It goes a little faster and it uses a different collection of pitches. This is what it sounds like. You might notice that that melody has an almost dreamlike quality to it, and that is something that is due to the use of the whole tone scale, a feature that is very common in Impressionist music. Now, you might not have a background in music theory, so the words whole tone scale might not mean much to you, but let's talk about what that means. In traditional European classical music, most pieces are structured around different keys or collections of pitches. If you take most of the notes from any piece and arrange them in order from lowest to highest, you arrive at a scale that outlines the key of the piece you're in. If we have a piece in C major, it will mostly just use the notes found in a C major scale. For those of you who took piano lessons back in the day, you might have learned a C major scale. It's the easiest one to play on the piano because it only uses the white notes. Now this scale is made up of intervals of different sizes. So an interval is the distance between two notes on the piano. And if we take any note and go to the immediate closest note, that's called a half step. So we could go from any note, and the closest note to it will be a half step away. This could be from a white note to a black note, or from a white note to a white note. If we add two of those half steps together, we get a whole step. The C major scale that I played for you just a minute ago is made up of both half steps and whole steps. whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. If we just look at the pitches that occur in a whole tone scale, the relationship between all those notes will not have a mixture of half steps and whole steps. They will simply all be whole steps. This is an example of a whole tone scale. To make it sound even dreamier, we can put down the pedal on the piano to add some reverb to it. And with that collection of pitches, we start to hear that dreamy sound that we hear in the second theme of today's piece. I hope you enjoy this chanson by Alf Hurum.